Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to Factorio. My name, of course, is Open Potato. I'm here invited to the bunker by Colonel Failure. I think is that you over there?
Hello there. How are you doing? Yeah, this is it. This is the final in this multiplayer series of Factorio for the very good reason that we can't play it multiplayer.
Yep, that pretty much sums it up. To be honest, it's a pretty tragic state of affairs.
Yeah, totally. Because I actually really quite like what we've built, and I think that potentially grand things were going to come out of it. I mean, we're woefully underdefended,
Hmm.
but that's not the end of the world. I can cope with being underdefended. But yeah, given that we desynchronize pretty much all the time now when we try to play multiplayer, and playing through it individually feels like we're kind of shortchanging everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
We've opted to gracefully bow out the series, and and we'll probably try it again if and when Factorio comes to Steam, because Steam matchmaking seems to be a little bit more stable.
Oh please. Oh, that would be a dream. That would be dream come true.
Yeah,
I would love that.
totally. So just to finish off, we've decided to kind of talk through the multiplayer experience for Factorio and what that's actually like. So, I mean, we've both played a fair bit of single player. I mean, what's the big difference for you?
The big difference is sort of stuff gets done a heck of a lot faster. I feel like when we were working on a project together, then it was done, and it wasn't like you wouldn't have to build something and then tear it all down. Somebody would just tell you you're being an idiot. Do it like this. You wouldn't have to look at it yourself. You get a different perspective, and I think that sort of really changes the dimension of the game. It makes everything a little bit tidier, neater, and a little bit more, yeah, better. That's my
Yeah,
sort of big
actually,
change.
I'd agree with that. I mean, I habitually place things wrong, but don't notice at the time, or stuff isn't hooked up, and it eludes me until much later that it wasn't hooked up properly.
Hmm.
And having that second set of eyeballs in play actually makes makes for quite a lot of kind of error catching. I think
Yeah.
is probably the easiest way to say it.
No, I think it totally does. I think it really makes a big difference. Um,
So I mean, we set out to fuel 50 research labs, and I mean, the cool thing about that as a target is
it's
just the speed at which you can research something.
yeah, yeah. How do you think we succeeded in the grand scheme of things?
Would have made it. We'd have definitely got 50 working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 50 aren't working at the moment. I think we probably top out about 15, maybe 20. Actually, there was something I was going to do. I'll do that while we're talking. Yeah, it could have worked. The amount of resources coming in at the top end.
Yeah.
So whether it's iron or copper, we never quite got that right, but we weren't far off.
No.
Now maybe we'd reached a point where we were kind of bottlenecked, so that actually without a significant rethink, it would have never got any further. I'm not so sure whether that's true or not, but it's like, let's say that I'm going to use completely arbitrary numbers, right? Let's say that we were bringing in 800 iron per minute
Okay.
onto the main belt, but what we actually needed was 1,000.
Okay.
Was that even at top speed, the best we could have hoped for would have been 900.
Hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes
so,
sense.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so it doesn't matter how many different iron sources we plugged in, the most we could have hit was 900.
Yeah. Well, I know something we didn't really talk about, but we both took the save files from each other, and we both went on and we played on this map for a little bit by ourselves. We didn't talk or anything. We just sort of instinctively just did it, didn't
Yep.
we? And what happened? How did your sort of playthrough progress after you'd done it from this point? Did you do
Well,
anything
actually, pretty
different?
well. No, I kept doing more. I mean, I didn't tear up anything that we had already.
No.
That was all straightforward.
Hmm.
But no, I mean, I didn't change anything particularly. That's what I've just built's not working. It was all about just continuing to do more because we both knew the path that we needed to be on and what we needed to accomplish. And that was, getting our steel situation sorted out. And yeah, I think you're going to have to do it like this. Sorry, I'm building at the same time. I can't multitask. You know this. Yeah, it was all about trying to get that resource bottleneck sorted, and I don't know whether it was a bottleneck that we could sort.
Well, I know for a fact that when I did it, I played. I probably played a bit more than you did, but the entire sort of basic circuit production, I doubled that. So I
Yeah,
basically expanded that entire area to the left, that big to the right. Sorry, should I say to the other half of the copper field? I covered that up, and got tons more basic circuits produced.
right.
And that seemed to be all right, I guess. It seemed to work. I also started mining copper and taking it to the furnaces by a train. I did that because
Crikey.
yeah, copper was a real problem. So I set up sort of 16, 17 copper mines, and started importing the copper. That was something I did. Did you not have a
Huh.
copper shortage? Because I had substantial copper
No, I had
shortage.
well. I mean, my copper shortage, I almost managed to fix by speeding the belts up.
But
Because it
that
was less about the volume of copper coming in and more the fact that it was just getting stolen by, here we go, I'm standing in the right place to show this off. It was getting stolen by the first couple of assemblers on the line. Now, as it turns out, if you speed the belt up, then the inserters in question quite often miss a piece of copper, which means it will sail through to the next one. And I was able to get all the way through to the end of the belt. What I did do, however, was I duplicated effectively the steel system of using
okay,
more chests. So
okay,
copper throughput was faster.
uh-huh,
But no,
okay,
in terms of the amount of copper coming in, not that much more. But with the throughput going faster, it basically meant that there would be less of a backlog in chests.
yeah.
So it would be producing more anyway. So the copper mines would be running for longer.
Yep. No, I did exactly the same thing. I packed the number of inserters onto both sides of the iron and the copper belt. I made what was it, about 12? I think I had 12 and 12 on both sides. It was
Right.
something crazy. Um, but yeah, no, it seemed to work fine. It seemed to work fine. Did you
But yeah,
get?
I'm fueling that many research labs is difficult.
It's a task, yeah. It's a real task. Uh, I don't think that we really ever got near where we needed to be in terms of blue flask production.
No,
Um,
I mean, if you look at the clock, so if you look at the timing of getting blue flasks built versus how long the research time was taking,
yeah,
it should have worked,
yeah,
or rather, we were in position where it could have worked, but no, I mean, we weren't close enough,
no,
and possibly doubling blue flask production so that we were overproducing them in the same way as we have done with raw resources is
yep.
overproduce as much as possible so that you've got that bottleneck or that kind of ready to roll
Well,
system
well, at the end
sat
of
there ready to rock and roll.
the day, we do have sort of inbuilt redundancy with the smart system that we've got in place. So
Yeah,
overproducing really isn't a problem for this smart factory, inverted commas. I mean, it
no,
it
totally.
works.
And to be honest, anytime I build another factory now, I'm going to be using a similar system.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't be quite as aggressive in terms of chasing after 50 labs, but I like the fact that it switches on and off. I
yeah,
think that's just kind of cool,
yep.
and yeah, and I'd be well up for doing that again.
Yeah, no, I think it really really worked, and that's great. Did you ever get near the finish? Did you ever get near robot defense or whatever it was? What is it? Robot defense? I think it's robot
Miss
defense.
Rocket Defense. Rocket Defense.
Rocket defense. That's the
You have
one.
a robot fixation. No, I never got that far, but I think I might play through this on my own, just for laughs,
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
Because it was odd. Once we started playing effectively single player out of the save game, I'd find myself record a couple of episodes and then go, I'll just play a little bit more. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really
and
weird.
and yeah, I'd have no hesitation in doing that again.
No, I know that I did exactly the same. I did exactly the same, and that's great. Everything seemed to work for me. I did actually rely more heavily on robots though. So
Oh, you turned on more logistics robots, did you,
I
or just construction
just
robots?
construction robots, logistics robots. I don't really feel the need for or really want, but construction robots. I wanted to put it this way. I wanted to automatically build defenses because I was getting so much of my base torn up at like every 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. Like in the later
Right.
stages of the game, it was brutal. Like quite honestly, it was brutal. It was really tough.
Yeah. Okay. Just because I finished doing what I've been doing, I'm going to explain what the hell I'm playing at here. So I've built two big ugly belts coming out of the research center with flasks on. So if you imagine I don't know where you are on your map at the moment, but you'll see how the flasks queue up by all the research labs,
Yep.
waiting to be picked up.
Yep.
Now, what occurred to me was that actually what would happen there is you'd get the flasks queue up, but that would only service that area of the belt. So what I've done is I've taken those belts back around and fed them onto the primary feeder belts
Oh,
again,
okay. Hmm.
so that it means that all areas of the research facility are
Yeah.
being serviced at all times.
That's quite a good point, actually.
So if
That's
there's a surplus in any row at all, then it will cycle round. So instead of flasks just kind of queuing up forever, what we'll get instead, in fact, interesting. That shouldn't be the case. Huh. Actually, that's very interesting. That really shouldn't be the case. Yeah, no, that's weird. So I've got a smart inserter picking red flasks off the belt and sticking them in a regular chest,
uh-huh.
and then a regular inserter taking them from that chest into the logistics chest, which I would have thought would mean that I'd be building up a backlog because the regular inserter is slower. Oh, it's because I've done inserter upgrades that mean that they can pick out more than one at once. Right, ignore me.
Okay.
Ignore me.
Well, to be honest, I think another mistake that we made was, well, for me anyway, it was the fact that we thought we could run our entire copper operations on 7 electric mining drills, or how many did we have at the start? How many copper mining drills do you have?
Oh, it really wasn't many. I mean,
It was
I think for a
pitiful.
while we were running as few as 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's because copper is a late game resource. I mean, yes, you start using it immediately when you're building stuff, but it's not until later that you really notice the volume of circuits that you actually require.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you can't hit the demand for those circuits, then you are permanently hosed.
Yep. You're in trouble. You are, and yeah.
And circuit production is the key to the game.
Yeah, I think a problem that we encountered is if you go to the sort of the basic circuit production area. Are you anywhere around there at the moment?
Yeah. I'm stood there right now.
Well, you see, the copper, the copper machine that supplies the advanced circuits. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that leaving that till the end of the line after all the copper had been sort of extinguished was probably a mistake. I think
Well, only
I think
if no copper gets through to it.
yeah, I know, but I think we should probably split the line somewhere and then fed it on a separate feed. I think that would probably have been a better a better call, just so that that was always saturated and we constantly had advanced circuit production rather than it just uh, stopping when the the basic circuits went into production. You know what I mean?
Where does this copper wire actually come out? Let's grab some and find out. Right, let's put you in perpetual motion. I'm pretty sure it comes up here. Hold on, I'm just testing it. I'll let you know my results. So I've just fed that copper wire machine by hand.
Okay.
To see where it comes out. So yeah. I mean, there's totally a shortage on that side. I mean, the good thing about advanced circuits, well, good and bad, I guess, is that they're quite slow.
Yeah.
Right. So copper circuits, advanced circuits aren't produced particularly quickly, which means that you don't need to be supplying that much copper wire for it to be able to hit and exceed demand.
Well, you do need four per
You
four
do,
per circuit.
but the speed at which you can produce for is pretty rapid.
Yeah, it's about 2 seconds. Probably
Yeah.
about 1 second, actually.
Yeah, so I mean, I just dumped 70 in there into the copper wire maker now, and that's got all 8 of the advanced circuit machines going, and there's a queue of copper wire at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't get me wrong. If we'd got additional copper coming in, because what I haven't done is I haven't expanded my copper production in the same way that you have.
Mm-hmm.
I might do that now, just simply because I'm in the area.
Yeah.
Although, to be honest, I mean, I've got one copper mine offline right now, so I'm running, what's that? 9. I'm running 9 copper mines.
Okay.
And it's so close to producing enough.
Uh-huh.
Even one more active might do the trick.
Yeah.
I kid you not. It might just do the trick. But again, I haven't got research going on at the moment, so
Yeah.
So who knows? I am making blue flasks though, so.
Well, that's something.
Yeah,
at
but
least.
if I was making all 3 flask types, that would be a different story entirely.
Well, what I found is when I started making the 4th flask type, it was still blues that were limiting me. Like I had purples lying on the belts, lining the belts, like filling the entire
Purples. Oof.
purple. Yeah, no, I know it's crazy.
You evidently went out to go kick some alien behind. I never got that far.
I was rolling in the tank. It was spectacular.
Right.
It was amazing. It was great fun. But yeah, no, purples were lining the belts, and it was still blues that I just couldn't get a handle on.
Yeah, well, purple's quite straightforward because you get nice return on any alien artifacts that you pick up.
Yeah.
That's less traumatic than blues. Blues are just a pain in the bum to build because they use so many raw resources, and they're quite slow, and they're slow to produce as well.
Yep.
It's very much like what are they called? Processing units. So the late game item that you need in order to actually build rocket defense in the first place because of the module 2s that you need.
Yep.
They take ages to make.
It's just crazy.
Just ages, and they use a huge amount of resources to do so.
Yep.
It's utterly painful. Let's get this researched. So yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, my queuing system is I've run out of stuff, so that's not helped. But I think I'd probably put a little bit more investigation into this if I were to go again. So if you were to build another factory now from the ground up, how many research labs would you go for?
I would stick with the same. Like, apart from the delivery of, some of the processes, I don't think we really went wrong. I mean, 50 labs is a nice number. It works, and I think we have a very good chance of fulfilling that if we just. I think one of the key problems, to be honest, was the fact that I want to say central bus. We didn't really use a central bus-esque system. But at the same time, we used sort of like a hybrid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think
I know what you mean.
that really didn't work in our favor, and we simply didn't have enough resources on that could fit on these belts. Put it that way.
Yeah.
we just didn't have enough resources fed onto the belts. And part of the fact I think is due to the fact that we've got cogs down one side and copper down the other side. But at the same time, we've rarely had enough iron to supply all of the stuff. So I think we probably need to consider the way that we design the fundamental the way that the fundamental components or the fundamental resources that are delivered to the factory. I think we really need to redesign that. But apart from that, I think 50 labs is a good target. To be honest, it's a good target and very achievable.
Yeah, I thought the furnace system worked like an absolute dream.
Yeah.
And could handle a hell of a lot more resources than were being put into it. I think we finally managed to max out its input for iron.
Only just though, I think it wasn't.
Yeah.
Only just managed to do that. I actually in my playthrough, even on camera, I invested in a second furnace area. I had a second little furnace. You might have seen it or not, but that seemed to help, but it wasn't as essential as the very first one. That really did most of the power lifting. It was
I mean, I think if I were to
great.
if I were to go that route, I'd probably build two in parallel.
Yeah.
So instead of it all feeding into one kind of post furnace sorting area, I'd have it going into two post furnace sorting areas and run them in a completely segregated fashion. So almost have one furnace block servicing nothing but the fundamentals, so everything to take you up to green flasks, and then have a second furnace block to service nothing but the high end stuff. So the blue flasks and all of that kind of ancillary stuff onwards, and treat them almost as separate networks.
Would you I know in this playthrough you were very very sort of focused on making sure that we could process both copper plates and iron plates from the same furnace bank. Would you do that same thing again? Would you insist that we've got
totally
to produce?
Because it's efficient, but you only get to see that efficiency if your smart factory is switching on and off.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that instead of having, let's say, again, for the sake of argument, 10 furnaces that look after copper and 10 that look after iron, you've got 20 that look after both. It means that if you've got enough copper in store at the moment and the iron switch is on, you get through that iron twice as fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only time that there's any kind of limitation to it is where you don't have a backlog being built up, and so you end up with both resources being processed at the same time. So I mean, looking at my furnace setup right now, it's working on both copper and iron. And I've got a huge grey iron backlog. Now, if, for example, I had enough copper, it would be processing that iron queue a hell of a lot faster. And so I wouldn't. In fact, iron just switched off. Awesome. And this might be about to demonstrate my point entirely. Iron just clicked off, and I'm researching. How is this possible?
That's pretty crazy, actually.
My iron belt, I've got a backlog. I've got over 100. I've got 300 iron in stock, and queues on the belts.
That's another.
Everything's queued, and I've been researching constantly for the last 6-7 minutes.
That's another thing that I'm not entirely sure we got right. I'm not entirely sure we got right the balance.
Oh, I know. I cheated that. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Carry on.
I'm not entirely sure we got right the balance of when to turn off the factory or when to turn off the mines and when to stop. Getting the iron out to the furnaces, should I say? I'm not entirely sure, because ideally we'd like it to be so that we were constantly supplying iron, but we weren't always outputting raw iron from the mines. Does that make sense?
Nope.
No. Okay. So ideally we'd never like to have a break in iron coming down the main bus. Yes?
I see what you mean. Yes. No. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I just think we didn't really have the balance quite right. I'm not entirely sure if it was 100 that it needed to be. Perhaps it needed to be lower. Perhaps it needed to be higher. But I don't know.
I get exactly what you're driving at, and okay. So mine is doing just that. So my iron just dropped below 100.
Yep.
So the iron mines have kicked back in, and the question we have is: do I run out of iron from this chest before new iron is coming in? And the
That's
answer is
exactly it.
no.
No, you
So
don't.
yeah, no. So new iron plate had started to be picked up by the time I dropped to 60.
Uh-huh. Well, I think, some of the problem was that it was the system that we have in place stopped the first chest from constantly outputting, which was a problem because it should always be constantly outputting. It should never build up a supply. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, because it's waiting for a gap on the belt, but actually, that still works. It because the way that the queuing system operates right now is so when mine ticked off just now, so when it clicked off iron supply from the
Mm-hmm.
mines, I had 400 iron plate stocked up,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't a gap in kind of, I mean, well, maybe there was a minor gap in belt density, but it didn't slow the factory down.
I've actually just loaded up my 2 hours on factory, and I completely changed the system over here.
Oh, cool.
What I did, and you'll see it on the video, but
Yeah.
what I did is I had groups of three, and then the center inserter exported to a central belt, and then two other inserters on the other side exported to a belt, and they both merged to the center belt. So I sort of always had a consistent place for inserters to put down resources.
Right.
That was what I sort of did. But also I changed
Okay.
up quite a lot actually. It works though, it works, but I'm not entirely sure if it's the most efficient way of working. Hmm.
No, it does work, and I mean, now that I've been running mine for a few minutes, what's very obvious is I can pretty much make enough red and green flasks in order to service all 50,
Hmm.
but I can't make enough blues.
Yep.
Not even close.
Well, even in my 2 hours on playthrough, I'm still struggling for blues. Like,
Yeah, I think, I almost think that instead of the 8 blue factories we've got going on, you could go for 20. And as long
yeah,
as they were all
oh yeah,
outputting all the time, you'd probably be able to do it.
oh easy, yeah. I think yeah. It's clear that we fell down in terms of blue. I mean, I've got I've got all my blues upgraded, but it's still a real problem. So that's
In fact, mathematically, it's pretty straightforward. Um, so if you look at the amount of time it takes to do a piece of research, which is however many seconds, does it even tell me anyway? 30 seconds. 30 seconds for a piece of research. Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. We're still on that one. Right. So it takes 30 seconds to do a piece of research, right?
hmm
Which means that you need one blue, one green, and one red flask every 30 seconds.
Yep.
Now, if it's taking you longer than that, you're not going to hit demand. And because we're doing 50 factories, that means you need 50 flasks of each colour every 30 seconds.
Yep. That's
Uh,
quite a lot.
yeah, right? It's pretty straightforward. Now, a science pack 3 takes 12 seconds. So let's, for the sake of argument, so that's a blue flask, takes 12 seconds to complete.
Yep.
And that's assuming it doesn't have to wait for any resources at all.
Okay.
It's got a constant supply of resources ready to rock.
Yep.
So for 12 of those, let's say that what you need 2.5, or one factory will service, one assembler will service 2.5 the research labs.
Okay.
Right. So for 50, that means you're going to need approximately 20 blue flask factories.
Well, that works out. That seems pretty reasonable to me, actually. I think that's
I'm
definitely
rounding the numbers
doable.
in my head there, so that's very rough. But there you go. So 20 fully supplied assembly machines would be able to service all 50, assuming there's no backlog, so there's nothing on belts. You'd be able to sort the lot, and they'd switch on and off.
Yeah, that seems absolutely reasonable. I think that's entirely
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's
So
just it.
because reds Red flasks take 5 seconds to produce, so that means you would need 8. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah,
So
we've
we're
got the
pretty
right
much
amount.
hitting up. Yeah, we're hitting up the right amount, and then greens take 6 seconds. Oh, that's much easier to work out. So one of these chaps will deal with. No, that's my brain gone. Never mind. It's close enough. Anyway, this has been kind of a wrap-up episode for the playthrough. If you ever get the chance to play Factorio multiplayer and your connection can handle it, it's totally worth doing.
It's really good.
Despite the
It's
fact
really good.
it's the same game you've always planned to do, but rather than the way we did it, which was we have an idea with regard to what we want to achieve. We didn't have an idea with regard to what we wanted to build.
No.
And I think it's the shape of the base that you want to get a unified plan on, rather than how do we achieve this lofty goal.
Yeah, because otherwise you just sort
Would you
of
agree with that?
I would completely agree with that, because otherwise you're just sort of thinking about, oh yeah, I want to do this, but you don't actually have a plan of how to set that in motion.
Right.
And I think that sort of proved to be a problem. It wasn't, detrimental to us, but it did slow us down substantially, I think, which,
No, it was fun. I'd do it again just for laughs. But
yeah, it was great. It was good fun.
but yeah, I think next time around, and certainly, once the game arrives on Steam, or once the multiplayer is slightly more robust, or maybe when I've got a better net connection, I'd be up for a repeat of this series, because it was certainly good fun the first time around.
It was good fun. It was good fun. And I'm just a way to die, so great. On that note, I think we should probably wrap this up. Would you agree?
All right, splendid. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can watch the alternate perspective on this kind of podcast-esque episode by flipping over to the opposite channel, as it were. You know which channel you're on. Go to the other one, and watch what the hell they were talking about on that one. We will be doing more collaborative stuff together. For those of you who've not yet seen any of our fine off-world trading colony utter failures. I'm getting myself killed as a dramatic exit from the game. That's well worth a look. But we'll be doing more stuff in the future. Thank you very much. I've been Colonel Failure, and my partner in crime for this has been
Orbit Potato. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Cheerio.